All right, everyone, we're going to go through the YM RTH Open about the first hour or so. And let me get a pin out here. All right, let's get started. So we had just barely a gap at all this morning, a small gap up, and almost filled immediately, but that's okay. So our higher time frame is showing up, and so at this moment right now, everything you want to start be doing is buying. And even though we are under our X rock here, we had this pullback after this large move yesterday, and then we don't really care about what happens on the overnight, but with the open, with the convergence divergence being underneath our rate of change here, we want things to be confluent for the most part. That's kind of the best scenario, but to understand that we are probably looking for another leg up, and that our X rock is above 50. The higher time frame has more room to move, and whenever it is solid, green, this means we want to buy. And whenever, even if it starts to change with even one bar on the higher time frame, that's when we'd want to start selling, or at least scalping for pullbacks. So, and sometimes with the ones that changes on the higher time frame, it'll actually stay that way for 30, 40, 50, 100 points before it turns and goes back. So this is green. It's green right now, and so we'd want to be buying. And so we get this small pullback here, and then it moves up again. Even if you waited for this to print a couple bars before jumping in, you could even wait for it to come all the way up here, and knowing that we're going to get at least a 20-point move at this point. So we do have a sell gap here that's up here this morning. That's this red zone. We had another one here. These are old ones. They were taken out, but on the open they're there. So we know that we're bouncing off of the open. We're probably going to go to at least that zone. So taking the trade here, or waiting for a few bars for it to cross over the X rock, or over our rate of change there, that we would grab that trade right there. We do have some order flow divergence here. We don't have divergence on our convergence divergence indicator, so this is something that you got to be careful with, but it does happen. Again, the higher time frame is telling us to buy, so what we want to do is possibly wait for a pullback. Now we get a double doji here, and this is a sell dojis. These aren't buy dojis, so that's an entry bar. But again, these are just such quick scalps. I mean, your scalp was like 9 points, and maybe 8-9 points, which is not worth the risk with so little movement. Our highways there, it doesn't even make it through the highway and pulls back. So again, this would be another point to go long. You might even wait until it starts to clear up here before going long. Again, if you are entering this late, you have to have your stop back down here. So you have to adjust your risk to reward to be beneficial for that. But if you entered here on the entry bar there, you would have made a quick 20-point profit, 15-point. And again, this is a sell gap, so you want to clean this off here. And so that's initially what you want to do. When we get this double top here with order flow divergence, again, we also have divergence here on our X rock. But again, you don't want to be playing this when you have zero room to our highway here. There's only 1 bar, 2 bars max to the highway there. So also as the market goes through a gap and then comes back, you got to remember that that gap wasn't respected for it to go all the way through, and then they decided that they were going to come in and push on it. Also, you can see that the pullback comes to our span, and then it pulls back again just to the highway here, and then this would be the spot again to continue trying to buy, since we're putting in sell gaps, or they were taking the sell gaps out here, and so we could come up to our longer term span here, which becomes a vacuum, and it's a previous open here, you can see off to the left. So this becomes, and again it's pushed all the way through that gap. It didn't stop at the bottom or 50%. It actually pushed all the way through, so that tells you that it's not going to respect that gap, and likely it's going to go higher. Higher time frame has way more movement possible, so this could just pull back and keep going. We get a little double doji set up here. It's pretty late. I would actually look for a pullback, but I believe it just kept going here, so as it moved up. Now you can see that we got to that next gap there, and then at 35 after, so in about 2 more minutes we're going to get a buy gap here. At that time we'll take a look at, we want to buy off that buy gap once it prints in. Now here you get to see early on, of course, but in the morning all you saw was this sell gap here, and it got disrespected, and then we have the sell gap above here, so likely to pull back to the span here. So it probably is not gonna, probably is only gonna pull back, not even a bar. You can see it already hit the rate of change there in 1 bar pullback, so it's probably just gonna turn right back up. And there it goes. And again, we have an open up here, so this is going to be a magnet, so it's most likely going to push all the way through to that open. And why are they super important? Well, these opens are incredibly important when it comes to your weekly open and those higher time frame large players testing their opens, making sure that the smaller players, a weaker on the other side, are able to get out, because institutions don't really lose money here. Just little guys that don't understand how the market works is where you lose money. So we get a little double top here. Not sure, again, I wouldn't be looking into making some type of double, like you're gonna sell off of here. Again, we have a pretty big gap that's on, and it took over the other gap, so we've ran through 2 gaps so far. So you'd want this gap to actually come into the gap and then reject off of it. So currently it's just doing a little 2-legged pullback. If you did try to sell there, maybe you get a couple bars out of it. It only went 1 bar and turned around, so it definitely would have been some type of loss right there if you tried to buy or tried to sell there. Again, on the higher time frame, it's telling you to buy, so any pullback, so if you bought there, that would have taken you out for a loss. You'd buy again, and that would have ran off to a winner, finishing off at the open. Now I would have sold that open, literally sold the price of that open, and I just do that a lot because of these opens are great spots for that, especially with the YM. Now other like NASDAQ, things like that, they don't respect it as much, or there's a lot more volatility, but the YM has a really good track record for that, so you could actually look to sell that. There is order flow divergence, there is convergence divergence on our green line there. That's our convergence divergence. oscillator indicator. So it is there, and so you most likely get 30-40 points out of this. Usually probably is going to come back down and touch that buy gap, because that buy gap now would be printed in there, and we'd be looking to buy off of that to retest that open. It kind of fluctuates here and then comes off of that. So if you were short here and didn't move your stop loss or anything like that yet, you could actually add on to your trade here for the second leg down. And there's the top, and we got a reversal bar coming off of that. Now this would be probably a place that you could go long. There is some divergence here. We have our span, hasn't yet hit the span yet, but it is the top of that buy gap. So you could actually chance this here. It's likely to stall a little bit, and so it pulls back again in the same scenario as we had here. If you were buying here and didn't take a break even, I think I got a break even there, but if you could re-enter here, and again looking for that that open to be hit again, and it stalls again. And again, I think we had 6:45 news, maybe it was this morning. Something was going on here, because it's definitely kind of meandering around. And I know we had some other news this morning as well at 7. So, and then you get another entry here. And again, look as our oscillator. It's interesting, but how it keeps respecting our rate of change until it goes sideways, and it's going to pass over it, and then once it gets over it, it's going to gain momentum, and it's just what happens. But there's another entry there, a double bottom with that 98, and again it pulls back again, and this is just comical, because I have a really hard time with these myself, and keeping composure. I just want to clean them out. So. And it finally double dojis and moves up to the open there. Now again, this is the second time, so usually the second time it's going to try to push through this open, and so that's once it pushes through and tries to fail here, that's where we'd want to try to get a sell trade. So you see how it double dojied, it's pushing through. Now if we get a sell bar, there's our sell bar. This is where you could look to sell short and maybe come back down to the span, or down to the buy gap again. But look what happened here. See how it came through to the middle here, but now it went all the way through. So remember what's going to happen. This buy gaps or sell gaps going to disappear because it wasn't fully respected. Not enough orders could hold it down, and so it's just going to pull back, and then it's going to take another run at it. So here's where you could have sold off a little bit. All right, we get that little push down into the zone here, and then we get a little pullback, and you would look to sell again. If you're short, you could actually add on here, and this is another add-on zone. And we're going to come down, and look, it taps our buy gap right there, nice and neat right there. And so looking at buy, this is divergence here on order flow, but not on our convergence indicator. And also we are now underneath the rate of change, and we're not underneath the highway yet on the higher time frame, but we're underneath the rate of change on the other higher time frame. So this is a reversal pattern, and it usually from this point it's going to head down probably, let's call it 100 points. A pretty good distance. So we get this push here, and then we're probably looking for a pullback back up into the highway here, maybe even to the bottom of that buy or that sell gap again. Oh, it looks like it's going to double bottom here, and this is where we do have some divergence here. So if you could get in early here and trust it, you probably could get a couple bars out of it. All right, we're back, and so back to the bottom of that buy gap or sell gap, sorry, and it didn't quite make it to the open this time, so it's reversing. So if we get a sell bar here, that means we got a lower high and it didn't quite make it. And there's our sell bar. So at this point, we'd be looking to sell. You could actually wait a bar or so just to confirm, but with that being said, you could sell, have your stop right there, and go for that sell back down and touch that buy gap again. And so 50 after, so we're not yet there. And that, it just moves on back down to that buy gap, and it starts to push into it. And that now we have a sell gap that prints right here on top of this buy gap. This buy gap's pretty good size, and so it's about, well, it's getting close to the 50% mark on that buy gap, so it's still holding, but since we put a sell gap literally right on top of it, it is likely that it will now push farther into this buy gap and most likely get rid of the buy gap. So there's another push down here. You could tempt that trade right there to sell. Again, this is really close to this other low here, so it could bounce around in here a little bit. It pushes down a little further. Now we're about 50%. There's our spans. You wouldn't expect it to go through the spans. It's going to have to get a bounce to gain momentum there. We have divergence here. This is a divergence setup. We have order flow and convergence divergence, and so this would be some type of buy, at least back to the highway. It's not going to go very far again because that sell gap is there, and it did a nice little up and down right there. Might be out personally and wait, but there it goes. And now we get a double top and a sell bar here, and again everything's showing to the downside again, so this would be where you'd want to sell again. It comes down, you get 2 bars, almost 3, and then it wallops on you and does a double doji sell bar, and we're over the top now. You probably want to get out, or to understand that sell gap's most likely going to push through this buy gap. You could hold and have your stop up here, because if it fails that gap, then you know that gap's not going to be worth. But and there it went through, pushed through the sell gap and all the way to the span, and then now we have another sell gap being printed right over the top of that buy gap. And so now we're still looking to continue to sell here, so looking for a pullback. And there's our reversal, our doji, now our reversal bar. And so now this would be our entry bar here to continue down to that span again, and you could trail here, looking for this open down here again, meaning the open of the day, the morning, and it comes back off of that span. You can tell it does this a lot off of that span. When it hits those spans, you just better off just taking your profits and then re-entering. And then we're going to get another sell bar here, and we're going to continue this down. All right, so now we're down here, 702 area at the open again. So this is a good spot to be looking at what's going to happen here, depending on, is the market going to move up or is it going to move down. So it's been in a trading range this morning so far, so we'll see what happens. So it kind of just starts to blast its way back up, and so we're now over the top of our rate of change here. a higher time frame as well. So any pullback now we would be looking to buy. So we got a pullback here, and so here's a buy opportunity. Again, we have a sell gap here at this span, so you'd be looking at coming up and only getting a few bars out of that, possibly into maybe this bar or so. So depending on how, right, it kind of wallops around, and that would have been a loss at that point. We have one leg, two legs down here as it kind of meanders around, and now we're getting, after two legs down, we're going to get that second leg up here. So if you took a loss on that, that's the thing. You have to be able to take that next trade and see if it's going to work out. That one would have been close. Oh, and we have that 7 o'clock news here. So this is what's going on right here, most likely. And then there it finally took off there. This bar here, what we call our third bar tail, those are really nice trades. We can talk about those more in another video, but we're back up in the span. Our buy gap went away. We have a new sell gap here. So at this point, we really want to start thinking about what's going to happen here. And so we have an expanding triangle. So that means that we have extreme highs at the top of the trading range, which is way up here, and then we have our extreme lows that's again way down here. So we're just in the middle of that. So this is going to go up and it's going to go right back down. So that's what my analysis for this morning was going to be. Now that move down didn't happen till afternoon. So the move up ended up happening first, and so, but we just want to play the system. The system's telling us that we're above our X-Rock, we want to buy. Our system is telling us that we're above the X-Rock on the opposite side, meaning on the higher time frame. So once that starts to print, we want to only buy. And so here we're getting a pullback, and we get an entry bar, and that would be another point to go long here. We got to expect it to wallop on these spans trying to get through, like it has to try to get through. So, and it pulls back, and you might have taken a loss there. And then we get another entry bar here as we're trying to go up here, another entry bar. And that one goes a few bars, so you wouldn't have been out. You probably wouldn't even have break even right there yet. And then it takes off. And actually, if you trailed it at that point, you would have had a pretty good trade. You could have taken this double doji here as well. So, because we were just clearing. You got to be careful. This was a sell gap here. So again, this went through here. It disrespected it. And if you're trailing here or you take it off at that point, it disrespected this sell gap by going all the way through it. So every pullback we were going to buy. So we want to buy this, or we want to wait for a double. Either way, no double happened. It was a quick buy. If you didn't buy there, you could have bought the third bar tail and finish it off at the open there. It blasts right through, and look, it went through this sell gap as well. So now we know that one's going to be disrespected. So again, looking to continue to buy here. And there we have another buy bar, and it wallops, but it doesn't take you out, and then it heads on up. Get another pullback. We know that this sell gap is done, or we have a huge buy gap that printed in. We got a sell gap above it. It hasn't touched yet, so we know that it's going to go touch that. So you want to buy, and now it touched it, and it cleared it just barely. And then of course 15, and now what we got, another minute, some right here or so, that we got another buy gap that printed in. So, and this would be your entry point off of that buy gap. So the buy gap has printed, it's right there, it's stalled, it came off of it, you would buy right there to go again. And that was a big run. All right, so that was the morning for the move up, and of course we had the big move back down. But again, the system would tell you that what to do, and that's the best part about following a system. See you on the next one.